it's Jeanie and Cindy.
Hey, Cindy, how are
Hey,
you?
hello. I'm doing well. We're on a roll talking about women, important women, powerful women who've actually changed the course in many cases of many people's lives. Today we're talking about Harriet Tubman, and she is a fascinating little tiny Black woman who worked with the Underground Railroad and freed not personally just 70 slaves, but in all, like over 800. She is actually up for being on the $20 bill. She's been submitted to replace Andrew Jackson on that $20 bill.
Mhm.
Her name was Mindy, and she was born in 1822, and she's known as a superhero. This man, one time, she had gone to a general store and picked up a 2-pound weight. And there was an overseer who was watching a slave try to run away. She stepped in the threshold of the doorway and he threw this 2-pound weight and hit her in the skull, knocked her out, damaged her skull.
Who threw the 2-pound weight?
An overseer, a slave.
Oh, he saw her. Okay.
Well, he saw a Black man trying to run out of the general store,
I see.
and she stepped in the way, and the stone hit her. And what this did was it caused epileptic seizures the rest of her life. But she also, I think it opened up her third eye because she could really hear the voice of God, which helped her in freeing these slaves. She had an amazing instinct. She knew when the enemy was coming, where the enemy was coming from. She just knew which direction to go to, not to go to. The movie is very, very interesting. She actually has 2 national parks that have been named after her. And she was owned by a man named Edward Brodess. This man owned her and her mother. Now, her name originally was Mindy. Her mother was Harriet. This man rented her out for $60 a year. Exactly. And so in 1849, she found out that she was going to be sold to the South. And this is when she said, no. And that's when she ran 100 miles from Maryland to Pennsylvania to be free. So now she's free. And she said, there are people I love that are still down there. And she went back 13 different times.
Wow.
Is that not the most selfless? And they all called her the Black She-Moses because she was a superhero to the Black folks, but she had so much faith that God would protect her and the people that she was helping cross the line. In fact, she didn't die till she was 91 years old. So if you're ever watching the movie, which I did, it's great. It's called Harriet. You have to remember as you're going, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? She lived to be 91. So it has a happy ending. She was friends with John Brown. And we all know John Brown's body lies a groaning in the grave, right? So she was friends with him, and she lived her last days in Auburn, New York. And in 1869, she was married again to a man who was actually 20 years younger than her. And what do I say to that? Good for you, sister.
Go for it. I'm there.
When she was in her 70s, she opened up an old folks home for women or people who had been slaves. And she also opened up a health center where all races were invited, which says a lot. Her favorite dessert was strawberries, and she loved blue and white china. She just had this love for finer things. And some people say that was kind of out of her character, but imagine being a slave and seeing these folks all having these nice things. And one day you said, one day I'm going to have blue and white china, something as simple as that, which women appreciate something like that. But I recommend, if any way you can, look her up on YouTube, on the History Channel, see the movie Harriet if you get a chance. I don't exactly know where you can watch that now, but I have great imagination. Imagine she's 5 foot tall. Imagine a woman with so much courage and selflessness. She was free, but she kept going back 13 different times to get people that she loved or people that had the courage and the strong desire to be free. Amazing lady.
There is such a rich history, and it's very interesting. I have a dear friend who lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Metroplex, and she has many past life memories. She's also an astrologer, but brilliant. And she had met a Black woman in this life, but they immediately recognized each other. And she said that she, my friend, was a white woman, but she was working with the Underground Railroad.
Oh, wow.
There were many white people who helped.
Oh, absolutely.
It was not just a Black endeavor, and that's what's so crazy is, like, especially now, politics, and everyone wants to pit, play the race card and Black against white. And that's really not how it was. I mean, yes, slavery was terrible, but slavery still goes on today.
Exactly, is terrible.
Yeah, the sweatshops in Indonesia and China and all of that, the people, the kids crossing the border who are put into sexual slavery and all kinds of stuff. So this is an ongoing thing, but wow, what a wonderful story this is. And, when we decided to devote a month or two to talk about influential women who have made a difference, it's so interesting because not just the women who listen to our coffee chats, of which there are many, but we have many men and younger men too who listen to this, and they love what we are talking about.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so I think that when we are lifting up women, it's not just like saying, oh, wow, we're so powerless. No. We can make an impact in our lives. And I love hearing this about Harriet Tubman. I mean, I'm not very tall either, but I don't know if I would have her courage to do that.
Right.
But again, as you say, that is extraordinary. And to call her like the female Moses of leading people out of slavery, like Moses led them out of slavery from Egypt. And, how long did Harriet's time with the railroad go, the Underground Railroad go? Do you have any idea?
Well, I would say, let's see, it would be after the Civil War. And so in 1869 is when she was married again. So probably up until the Civil War, where people were liberated.
Like 1845, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it was 1860s and she was married in 1869. So it was
during that time period.
Yeah, it was 1849. Yeah, that was when she found out she was going to be sold. Can you imagine knowing that you're going to be sold? Can you imagine? And that they don't care about your parents. Her parents were separated. They were working on different plantations. Her mother and father were. It's just so sad, so inhumane slavery is. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing that I loved about this story was when she opened up the health center, she welcomed all races. She didn't because she knew that it had to be white people helping them.
Yes.
It had to be white people that were protecting them. Mm-hmm. And So she didn't hate white people. And that's something that we need to remember with racism. White people don't hate blacks and blacks don't hate whites. But as long as they can keep some kind of narrative going that we are enemies somehow, they control us. And it's so important that we all come together. We all come together. That's how she was able to free these slaves, because of the white people helping her.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to focus on is how we love each other and appreciate each other's cultures. That's the other thing. Whenever you say that, oh, we can't do that because we don't want to offend the blacks. Oh, we don't want to do that because we don't want to. Well, what you're doing is promoting white supremacy. Hello? You're telling them that there's something wrong with being black and black culture. I mean, for me, because being a musician, jazz, blues, music, wisdom, the kind of wisdom that we have forgotten, because blacks they were taken from Africa, they were brought here.
And many of them were sold by black slave owners.
Exactly.
So we cleared that up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they were brought here, but they still had, from Africa, they still had a primordial understanding. That's why their rhythm is good. Their music is called all the black keys on the piano. It's called the pentatonic scale. It's called the slave scale. Swing low, sweet chariot, and Amazing Grace. All of these black spirituals can be played on just the black notes of the piano. And the soul, when we lived in Nashville, Dennis and I went to black church, because when he was in Kentucky, and his best friend was black, his name was Papa, and he said that his church got into some kind of fight. It was a Baptist church. Oh, no, Church of Christ. Okay. And they were giving money to an orphanage. And some of the church wanted them to say it came individually. And the other people in the church said, no, let's say it comes from the entire church. It split the church up. It turned into this big fight. Dennis's father had actually donated the land for this church. Dennis started going to black church and, in fact, started preaching at the black church. And they loved him. And he said the food was so good so Dennis, and even today, when we were living in East Texas, especially, they have an instinct. They know. I remember one woman saying that Dennis, he's a good man. He understands us black folks. He understands us black folks, because he did. He actually preferred them when it came to his spiritual upbringing. Isn't that? But yeah, they'd get him up to preach, and they'd put him up in the front row, and
let me tell you something. Unless you've been to a black church, you have not seen anything.
That's right.
It is, they are up, they are praising God, they are shaking their tambourines.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun.
It's so fun. That's getting back to music. That's why Elvis was so popular. He was a black soul with a white body. Mm-hmm. He studied music with all of his black friends, and that was the perfect combination of black and white coming together. And music is so powerful. And I'm going off on a tangent there, but getting back to Harriet, she teaches us that we are here to love. And in fact, on her gravestone, it says, a woman, I came to serve God. That was her whole mission, was serving God. This is how she felt about saving the slaves, that she was working on behalf of God's understanding, and why she was protected, and why.
There's so many stories like this. Even
so many.
Think of Anne Frank, she forgave everybody. People, Viktor Frankl, who was in one of the concentration camps, forgave everybody. And it's like until we can let go, until we can forgive. And then what that does is if we are just eaten up with hate and resentment and all of that, there is not any room for God to move through the power. But once we do that, and Harriet Tubman obviously was an example of that, it opens up this vacuum that is filled up with God and power. And all of a sudden, all you can see is what you see is, in fact, I gave a talk on Sunday, and one of the principles, and even C.S. Lewis wrote this in called The Weight. He had a book called The Weight of the Divine. And he said, you have never met an ordinary person. Every person is an eternal child of God.
Exactly.
So thank you for this great conversation today. I just love our talks about these extraordinary women. Yes. And I can't wait till the next one. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water. Come on and wade in the water, you gotta wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water.